when he got in the car, there's a scene where he gets in the car, he's going to take the kids to the racetrack, and he knows it's wrong.
On screen, he was larger than life, the lovable clown, the man who made the world feel lighter just by walking into a scene. John Candy had a gift. He could make people forget their problems in seconds. But what no one knew was that he could never escape his own. He carried a secret fear that haunted him since childhood, a fear that his life would end early, just like his father's. And as his fame grew, so did the weight he carried. With every laugh he delivered, another part of him grew more tired. By 1994, his smile had become a mask so convincing. Even those closest to him couldn't see through it. He was filming in Mexico, far from home, far from help. No one knew that just hours before his final scene, John had spoken to his children on the phone as if he knew it would be the last time. The world was stunned when the news broke, but what truly shocked those who knew him was how expected it had always been. He made a living making others feel better, but no one ever stopped to ask who was helping him, and the truth behind his final days is far more unsettling than anyone dared to admit. John Candy was born on Halloween in 1950 in the working-class suburb of East York, Toronto. His early life was modest but loving until it wasn't. When John was just 5 years old, his father Sidney collapsed from heart failure and passed away at the age of 35. The loss was sudden, devastating, and left a hole in John's world that never truly healed. Without a father, John grew up in a house of women. His mother and aunt tried their best, but nothing could replace the stability he lost. He began to retreat inward, using humor as a shield. In school, he was the funny kid, the one who could imitate teachers, make friends laugh, and diffuse tension with a joke. But the laughter he inspired often came from a place of quiet longing. From an early age, John feared he was living on borrowed time. His father's premature death haunted him, shaping the way he saw his own body, his health, and his future. He became obsessed with making others feel good, because deep down, he didn't know how to do that for himself. He had dreams of becoming a professional football player, but a knee injury shattered that plan. Instead, he turned to theater, finding a new identity on stage. Acting gave him structure, confidence, and something even more powerful, a place to hide. At Toronto's Centennial College and later McMaster University, he immersed himself in drama. He joined local theater groups, where his larger-than-life personality found a natural home. Friends and mentors noted his charm, quick wit, and surprising depth of emotion. He wasn't just funny, he was empathetic, attentive, and always observing the world around him. But even in those early days, there was a weight behind his eyes, a heaviness he didn't speak of, a fear that no matter how much people loved him, it could all disappear in an instant, just like it had with his father. And so, John Candy became a master at making others laugh, all while building walls no one could see. John Candy's rise wasn't meteoric, it was earned. After years of theater work and small television appearances, his breakthrough came in the 1972nd with Canada's iconic comedy series SCTV. Among a cast of rising legends like Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, and Rick Moranis, John stood out. His characters were absurd yet lovable: an eccentric security guard, a washed-up lounge singer, a clueless talk show host. Whatever the role, Candy infused it with warmth, humility, and a kind of desperate humanity that made people laugh and care. Hollywood took notice. Soon, John was cast in supporting roles in American films, often stealing the spotlight. In Stripes, 1981, opposite Bill Murray, he was the heart of the film. In Splash, 1984, he played the irresponsible but loyal brother, a performance that made directors see him as more than just comic relief. Then came Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, 1987, where John starred alongside Steve Martin. It was a defining moment, as Del Griffith, the overly chatty, painfully sincere salesman, Candy delivered a performance that was both hilarious and heartbreakingly real. It was the first time mainstream audiences saw his full range. He could make you laugh until you cried, and then quietly make you cry without warning. That same year, Spaceballs cemented his status as a fan favorite, and Uncle Buck, 1989, turned him into a household name. His characters weren't just funny, they were familiar. The bumbling uncle, the kind neighbor, the underdog trying his best. He didn't look like a typical movie star, but that's what made people love him more. Yet even as his star rose, cracks were forming. The industry had a box for John Candy, the funny big guy. He was offered roles that relied on his size for laughs, and though he made them work, he knew he was capable of more. He longed to play dramatic roles, to be taken seriously, but the offers rarely came. Behind the scenes, the fame brought pressure. He worked constantly, sometimes filming multiple projects a year. The travel, the long hours, the expectations, it all added up. And while he was adored on set and by fans, Candy often felt isolated. As the spotlight grew brighter, the shadows behind it grew deeper. He had become Hollywood's most lovable clown. But what no one realized was that even clowns get tired. As John Candy's fame grew, so did the pressure to stay funny. But the problem wasn't just the roles, it was the expectation. Hollywood had branded him as the big funny guy, and while audiences adored him, that image became a cage. His weight, once a source of on-screen charm, became a subject of cruel jokes off-camera. Casting directors wanted him exactly as he was, but healthier, smarter, more dramatic. Those parts never came. John internalized the pressure. He knew the risks. He'd watched his father die young from heart issues, and yet he struggled to change. He tried multiple diets, hired personal trainers, took on detox plans, but each effort seemed temporary. Friends said he was always either on a program or off the wagon. His relationship with food wasn't just physical, it was emotional. It was comfort, punishment, escape. Behind the scenes, he battled anxiety. Public speaking terrified him. Award shows drained him. Even meeting new people sometimes triggered intense self-consciousness. But on set, he hid it well. Candy had a way of making others feel safe, even when he didn't feel that way himself. He also carried a quiet fear that time was running out. He spoke of it often, how he believed he wouldn't live past his 40s. It wasn't said with drama, but with resignation. He once told a friend, "I've got my dad's heart. I'm just waiting for it to stop." End of thing. Despite his warm presence, John was working himself into the ground. He took on project after project, sometimes out of passion, sometimes out of obligation. He was supporting not just his own family, but also others in his circle. He wanted to provide. He wanted to make sure everyone was taken care of, even if that meant sacrificing his own peace. By the early 1992nd, the cracks had widened. His films were underperforming. Studios began questioning whether audiences still wanted that kind of comedy. Candy tried producing, even forming his own company, hoping to regain control over the stories he told. But it was an uphill battle. Privately, he was growing more withdrawn. His closest friends said he stopped answering calls. He missed events. He stayed up late alone, watching old movies or reading in silence. And during the filming of Wagons East in Mexico, the signs became too obvious to ignore. He looked tired physically and emotionally. Crew members whispered that he didn't seem well, but no one pressed. No one ever pressed, because John Candy was always supposed to be okay. He was the one who made others feel better, the one who broke the tension, the one who walked into a room and made it lighter. But when the laughter faded, the silence that followed was deafening. The 3rd of March, 1994. John Candy had wrapped another long day of filming Wagons East in Durango, Mexico. That night, he called his children Jennifer and Christopher. The conversation, by all accounts, was warm and tender. He told them he loved them, said he missed them, and then he hung up. No one knew it would be the last time they'd ever hear his voice. The next morning, John was found unresponsive in his hotel room, alone. The room was quiet, no dramatic signs, no final note, just silence, a silence that echoed far beyond those four walls. He was only 43. The news hit Hollywood like a shockwave, but for those who knew him best, it didn't feel like a surprise. It felt like the moment everyone had been dreading, but no one wanted to name. Friends remembered how he used to joke, morbidly, that he wouldn't make it to 45. Some said he looked exhausted. Others recalled that he'd spoken about needing a break, needing to slow down. But he never took one. There was no tribute from the Academy, no long segment on awards night. In the years that followed, his name faded from public memory faster than it should have. And that, in many ways, was the true heartbreak. Because John Candy wasn't just a funny man, he was the heart of every scene he entered, the one who made others feel seen, heard, safe, and in the end, he slipped away without fanfare, without noise, without the applause he so deeply deserved. There's something haunting about a man who spent his whole life making others feel better, quietly slipping out the back door of fame. No encore, no goodbye, just a final phone call, just a quiet room, just gone. John Candy never got the standing ovation he deserved. There was no Hollywood star ceremony after his passing, no posthumous Oscar tribute, and yet, ask any actor, comedian, or filmmaker who grew up in the 82nd or 92nd, and you'll hear the same thing. John Candy was magic. To Steve Martin, he was a brilliant actor with a heart bigger than his body. To fans, he was comfort, familiarity, the friend who always knew what to say, whether in laughter or silence. He made people feel at ease, even when he was falling apart. His children have carried on his legacy in quiet, powerful ways. Jennifer Candy became a producer. Christopher pursued acting. But more than continuing his career, they've continued his kindness, always remembering the father who called them every night, no matter where he was in the world. Years after his passing, something changed. A new generation discovered his films, not just the laughs, but the soul beneath them. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is now viewed as a masterclass in vulnerability. Uncle Buck has become a cult classic, and that moment when Del Griffith sits alone in a train station, holding back tears, it hits differently now. Because we know the man behind that look. John Candy's legacy isn't just in punchlines. It's in the quiet dignity of a man who never asked for praise, but gave the world everything he had. It's in the friends who still speak of him with reverence, in the fans who feel like they lost someone personal. He was never the leading man in the Hollywood sense, but to many of us, he was the man we needed most. Maybe the industry didn't celebrate him enough, maybe we didn't ask enough questions, or look closely enough when the smile seemed forced. But one thing is clear, John Candy didn't just make movies, he made people feel seen. And in a world full of noise, he was one of the few who made the silence matter.